Hey comic book fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0, and fans, you're back with me, Mike Spider Slayer, getting ready to do the countdown, episode number 123. This is a video series where I take my favorite comic books of the week and I count them down from my least favorite book all the way down to that top spot. That's right, guys. And this week we have 14 comic books to talk about all together. Just a little asterisk here in this week's countdown. I get a chance to read two books this week because of just running out of time. And one was The Beauty issue number 4, and then the latest issue of Batman and Robin Eternal. So they have not been read, so they're not on the countdown this week. But based off of the books that I read, I don't see these two books topping my top 5. So with that being said, let's go ahead. Let's start this week's countdown. Alright, so this time around we're going to start off with number 14, and number 14 goes to I Hate Fairyland issue number 2. Once again, this book didn't blow my socks off, but I do find it kind of entertaining. This is the book that's written by Scotty Young. It's, I think, his first independent book that he's actually written. And, it's about this girl Gertrude who is on this adventure to get back home, and she's been trying to find this lost key to get back to Earth, I think something for like 27 years or something like that. And the book has its crazy humor and whatnot, and this time around Gertrude's adventure kind of continues. In the last issue, you were kind of left cliffhanging with her about to do battle against this crazy huntsman. And you find out that she wins the battle in the issue by cutting the creature's head off and kind of uses it as a puppet through the beginning of the issue. That's pretty funny, but I would have loved to seen a battle between that creature and her, because that was the cliffhanger there. And obviously they skipped over that fight. The book has a lot of what would be swearing in here, but doesn't actually show, the real words. They cover it up by saying different stuff. It's an okay book. It has its weird humor in there. Some of it's actually funny, and then other times it's actually just downright, really grotesque in a way, and very weird. But again, the book is okay. It's not blowing my socks off, and I really want it to get better. At the end of the issue, you find out that she's doing battle against all these weird zombie-like guys. So will I continue reading it? I am. I want it to get better. I want it to do well, because this is a title that I want to really like, but it's kind of disappointing me at this point. I think I like this issue a little bit better than the first one, but it kind of really didn't progress the story all that much for me. The only thing that I get out of Gertrude here is that she is in her own way very smart on her feet. So, after reading this one, I'm giving this one a 3.25 out of 5 stars. There is no book this week that I can sit there and say I disliked. I really enjoyed all the books that I read one way or another. Nothing was horrible. All right, so now we go on to number 13. And number 13 this week, fans, was Titans Hunt, issue number 2. My thing on this particular series is that for me, I don't connect to the characters the way maybe I should, and I felt that the story didn't really progress all that much further this time around. In the beginning of the issue, we find out that Roy Harper is drinking and he has to go somewhere, but he sees this very mysterious creature on his windshield, and he winds up getting pulled over. We also find out in this issue that Grayson goes back to the Batcave, and we know this takes place during post-Flashpoint, because Alfred's in this issue and he has a missing hand. So you know that's when this series kind of takes place here. And you find out different things that happen with this narc character as he's going hunting. I'm not sure what's happening over there. And then you wind up finding out that Grayson has to go after Garth, who is the actual Atlantean that's in this issue. And he wants to talk with him. And and you just find out that throughout this book that there's this mysterious this guy that's in the background. Like, who is that guy? We don't know yet. We'll find out, I guess, in time. But I found that this issue was almost very repetitive from the first one. Roy Harper searching for something, Grayson, fighting Garth or North or whatever the hell his name is. And we really don't get any progression in the story, and you get left with the cliffhanger with Wonder Woman here. So I wasn't impressed by this. I didn't feel like, oh wow, this is a progressive story. What's going on? I didn't. It just left me hanging with more questions and who these characters are and things like that. And so I wasn't overly impressed with it. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great either. So same thing. I'm giving this one a 3 1/4, or I'm sorry, this one was 3.5 out of 5 stars. I like the mystery element of the book, but I feel that there does need to be a little bit more progression in the story. I just don't want to be left hanging, finding out, okay, what's happening now? So that's why it was lower on the list. All right, so now we go on to number 12. And number 12 this week was All New, All Different Miss Marvel, issue number 1. Now, I liked the story. I thought it was really well done, but I was taking this in consideration for the newer reader out here that wanted to learn a little bit more about Miss Marvel, but you don't really get that. You really get of what happens at the end of her last volume, and I felt that if you did not read the story, the last volume, there's really no connection, I think, for a new reader on this Bruno character, which was a huge part in the last volume of him really loving Kamala Khan. And you get that here, how much he does care for her, but I felt like as a new reader, you're not going to get that connection, and you're going to feel that Miss Marvel is more of a like a soap opera comic book than anything, a lot of teen drama here. And that's where I felt like, people might get turned off by this. And you get the other part of the story in here is where there was some developers building things on in New Jersey, and they put Kamala's face all over, being like Miss Marvel approves things. And we're trying to find out the real story of what was going on in that aspect. There was good character moments in here. We also get 2 different artists. We get the artist that originally wrote volume 1, and then you get the other artist that started this issue. So which artist is going to be on the book? So I wasn't sure if I really dug the 2 artists thing, because I actually liked the artwork in the beginning of the issue, which I thought was it felt like it fit Kamala a little bit better than the original artwork, and that's my opinion here. But again, if you wanted kind of a teenage drama love story, that's pretty much what you got, because you really got the story of how Miss Marvel missed her best friend for the past, I guess, 8 months or so, because she's so busy being Miss Marvel. So it was a good story. I liked it. I enjoyed it, but I was, again, taking this rating in consideration for the fans. And so for the new readers out there. So I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I thought this could have been a little bit new reader friendly instead of diving into Kamala's relationship, because it's like it based it all off of the last issue that ended like 2 weeks ago. So, okay, 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right, next. We go on to number 11, and number 11 is Ant-Man, The Astonishing Ant-Man, issue number 2. It's funny because The Astonishing Ant-Man issue number 1 made it number 1 on my list on the last time it came out. But this time around, once again, it's all about teenage love. I mean, they're not teenagers, but it's a love story. And, in the beginning of this issue, you find that Scott is telling his story on how, on what was going on, I guess, in those 8 months or whatnot. And so you find out that, that Grizzly and I'm trying to figure out the other guy's name are trying to make money on their own. They're looks like they're hacking into other systems for Darren Cross's son, and so we get to see that they're doing things that they're not supposed to. In this issue, you find out that Scott's trying to land this security job, and he comes across a magician that's trying out or whatnot. And the guy's like a joke, you know, and I thought that was kind of funny. But then when Scott meets who is involved with this job on who the security gig is, he winds up going into Darla Deering. And if you don't remember her, she's from she's from FF. The volume 2 volumes ago already, not last volume, but the volume before when the Fantastic Four went on a vacation. And they developed this relationship, her and him. And so now you get this whole backstory of what happens with her and Scott on why he dumped her and why he felt that he didn't need to be around her anymore. And then you get this uneventful battle when it came to the magician, where he gives his backstory on his father, how he was a crook and all this other stuff, and he promised his dad that he was going to be a magician, but it became this weird story, and I was just like, what does this have to do with anything? Like, are they just showing some closure here with Darla Deering? Like, do I care what happened 2 volumes ago? Why are we rehashing this? You know, and so we find out that it's kind of all this whole setup thing, and it was okay. I mean, there was good humor points. There's times where this series actually makes me laugh out loud because the humor here is great. But there was this story where I felt like, is this really needed? You know, but it was enjoyable, and I gave this one same thing, 3.5 out of 5 stars. You know, it's a good read. Nick Spencer has real lengthy dialogue, so if you're not into the moment of reading, just put this one off to the side because there's a lot of reading here. So again, 3.5 out of 5 stars for me. All right, so next we go on, and we're going to go on to the top 10 now. We're going to crack the top 10. And so number 10 is going to go on to Batman Europa, issue number 1. I was expecting something a little bit more out of this book, and it wasn't bad. I just thought it could have been better. Now, my initial reading on this was a 4 stars. But when I got done doing my review on the channel, I was thinking, like, man, 4 stars seems pretty good for this book. I thought maybe I should kind of yank it down a little bit. Because first of all, it wasn't the artwork that I expected. Yes, we have the wonderful Jim Lee artwork that is in the book. But however, it's not as crisp. And it doesn't show off Jim Lee's artwork the way maybe, you know, you're used to seeing Jim Lee's artwork. And that's what kind of frustrated me throughout the book. Then we get this story that we find out that Batman, or Bruce Wayne, is infected by this colossal virus. And, you know, it's giving him these clues to go to Berlin and travel, you know, to Europe to solve this case. Somehow, one way or another, he winds up at the exact same moment with Joker. And he has to work together with Joker to try to solve this whole virus situation. Because the Joker has this virus as well. The artwork is, again, it is cool, but again, it gets a little bit muddled up by the coloring in here. And I thought that the plot line could have been a little bit more, took its time a little bit more on showing you on how Batman got to the point he got to meeting Joker, or who certain characters were in the book. And for $5, I thought it was not enough dialogue in here. Yes, the book may have had more pages, but it didn't equate to that because there was very little dialogue throughout the entire issue, and I was disappointed with that as well. So I was a little bit disappointed, and even though it was a cool story, and a story with the Joker is always intriguing, and it's very intriguing to see how these two will solve this whole virus situation together, I just find that it was a little bit underwhelming at times. So after reading this particular issue, I gave this one a 3.75 out of 5, and it was the lowest one out of the 2 3.75 books I had this week. So this one got number 10. All right, so now we'll go forward and we'll move on to number 9 this week. And number 9, fans, goes to Spider-Woman issue number 1. Another all new, all different Marvel title, issue number 1. So we've known now for months that Jessica Drew is pregnant. We don't know who the baby is. And do you find out in this issue? Of course not. They're going to drag that shit out a long time. So you're going to, you find out that in this issue that she is pregnant, and she's been training Porcupine, and Ben Ulrich is still in this series as well, and training him to be the muscle of the group, and she's kind of on the sidelines. And I think that's really cool how she's taken this B-rated character or villain and made him into a hero, and then now is doing crime. And she's doing all this so she can take her maternity leave so she can actually deliver her baby. The artwork is the same in this series as it was before. It's very consistent. They use the glasses a lot in here to represent certain things that happen. Whether it's expressions or some kind of event, which I've always thought that was really neat. And you wind up seeing Jessica go on her maternity leave. She has this party. We get this great panel, with Spider-Man and Tony Stark. And probably the best part in this issue was Tony Stark asking Jessica who the baby daddy was. And she kind of gets like pasta dumped on his head and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool. And you get to see her experiencing her maternity leave, which I thought was pretty cool too as well. And, you find out that she's getting bored, and then she winds up going to this cosmic doctor that Carol Danvers actually recommends to her. But at the end of this issue, when you find out she's getting the baby checked out, unlucky timing, look what shows up. Skrulls. Skrulls shows up at the end of the actual issue, and you're like, damn it, fucking Skrulls. So now it looks like Jessica's going to be forced into doing some unwanted battle, to try to protect what's going on over there. So I thought the book was good. Again, it's a series that it is a new jumping on point for readers, because I think it did a pretty good job at that, because she's pregnant. She wasn't pregnant in the last series. They gave you a good heads up of what was going on with Porcupine. So I thought they did a pretty good job at that. It's just, for me, some other books were much better than this book, but it is a solid book, and I gave this one a 3.75. All right, next we go on to number 8 this week. And this book was a book that I was on the fence about buying, and this is Star-Lord issue number 1. Do you really want to learn about Star-Lord and his adventures before he was a part of the Guardians of the Galaxy? And that was the question that was going through my head when I picked up this book. And I said, well, it's all new, all different. Why not give it a fucking shot, right? Excuse the F word on there. So why not give it a shot? So the book does a great job at rehashing what happened from Guardians of the Galaxy X number 0 and what happened to Peter Quill's mom. And in this series, you find out really Peter Quill is doing, you think he would be, distracted from space, that he would not want to go there. But in this series, it really shows how much he was obsessed with space and how he wanted to become a pilot and explore the universe and find out what's going on. I thought the artwork was really well done in this series. Remind me of a lot of Nova in a way. And we get to see the tenacity, the determination of Peter Quill throughout this issue. He's trying to find out about they're all trying to find out this hyperdrive on this Kree spaceship. And what happens is that Peter has a lot of knowledge, being that he's a mechanic on this project, and they're trying to get this hyperdrive to work so they can get this ship called the Asteroid 1 to explore space. So that's what they were doing, and we get to see a whole bunch of astronauts are just dumbfounded by the hyperdrive. Peter tries to put in his 2 cents. He tries to fit in the situation. We get to see the person that hired him has been protecting him, and so out of desperation, Peter steals the ship, and he tries to experiment with the ship and seeing if his theory was right on getting the hyperdrive to work, which it really did. It really did work, and he was excited that he got it to work, and that big spaceship was going to explore space. But when he finally gets to the peak of his, his excitement, we find out that the ship winds up going dead, and he winds up being stranded in space, and he doesn't know what the hell is going to go on. So he's stuck in space at this point. So I thought this was a cool little adventure here, and seeing that tough determination on Peter Quill and everything like that. So I thought it was a lot of fun. I think that this could be a good series. Will it continue to be a good series? Again, it's yet to be determined. But at least for this first story arc, it's definitely grabbing me. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. Made you care for a character before he became the great legendary Star-Lord, I thought that was pretty neat. Alright, so next going forward, we go on to number 7. And number 7, guys, goes to Deadpool issue number 2. I enjoyed this issue. I thought this issue was awesome. It's almost there in the top 5. There's some really good comical moments in this book. Jerry Duggan does a great job with the character, and I like the direction this is going because there's mystery here at the end of this issue, and that's what really turned me on to it. And there's great balance of humor in here too. We find out that the Deadpool's for Hire, which is hired by Wade Wilson, you would think, is doing jobs, and these guys are all finding out that they're not getting paid for it, that they're a bunch of charity workers, and there's not regular paychecks coming in. And the book is hilarious because it just throws in little things in there, like you have Madcap in here that's always like chiming in there, and he's like, hey, did you check out my new look? It's just like, it's so funny. The guy is hysterical. And, again, the Deadpools do these jobs, and they find out that it's almost like charity work. And Deadpool's like, well, think about the fame you're going to get in store with all this, It's not just about the money. And so, and what happens is Deadpool winds up giving him a gig in here to make some money. But before that, we find out that Hawkeye winds up shooting Deadpool in the chest and gives him he's been summoned to not use the name Heroes for Hire anymore. And Deadpool has this funny thing. He's like, he goes, how much are they paying you, Hawkeye? And that's just a kind of a throwback to Hawkeye's original, series that I think it was Matt Fraction what did that one, where the guy Grill called him Hawkeye. So I thought that was pretty cool. And he's like, nothing. And then he's threatening him with another Deadpool vs. Hawkeye series, which I thought was a really cool moment in there. But you find out that these Deadpools are doing this job, and they found out that in this issue that they were doing a job for bad guys, that were evicting illegal aliens out of their homes. So it wasn't like a really feel-good moment here for a lot of these people. But they're desperate for some money. And Stingray gives him his cut, and Solo gives him his cut. Fool Killer is in this series, which I thought was cool. I haven't heard from him for a very long time. But then you find out in this series, at the end of this issue, that you have one Deadpool in here that kind of beats up an abusive father, which I thought was pretty neat. And then at the end, though, you find out that the Deadpool that's in this book is not really Wade Wilson. And he kind of gets unmasked, but you don't see it. So who is the Deadpool that's running this whole gig, and where is Wade Wilson at this time? I'm not sure. So we're going to see what happens here. Is it Taskmaster? Like, who is it here? So not too sure. Really great mystery at the end of this, and it's got a good balance of humor, and I really like that in this book. It's something that we don't see from Deadpool that often, since I guess Jerry Duggan has taken over, and Duggan's done a nice job with the series. So cool cover here too. So after reading this one, I give this one a 4.5. 4 out of 5 stars. All right, number 6 this week goes to Invincible issue 125, and it got cut from the top 5 based off of the last comic that I read, and I'll show you guys that comic that kicked it out. All right. Invincible is cool. It's a reboot part 2, and this time around it has to do with Invincible talking with his father, Omni-Man, and trying to convince him not to take over the world or try to take over the world, not to beat up his son because things can happen, and he tries to convince him to just not even go in that route. But right away, that Omni-Man is thinking of these things in his head, and he's trying to figure out what is Mark coming across here. And and he's trying to tell his son, you can't betray the Voltrum and things like that. So you get to see this little battle in the beginning of the issue, and they really fight each other, and then you wind up seeing the Guardians of the Globe. They're teaming up with Mark. They can't believe that Omni-Man is betraying them like this, so you wind up getting to see this freaking killer-ass battle that happens in this issue, and you see Omni-Man punch Invulnerable's heart out, and it was just like, oh my god, and that was crazy. So there's this big battle royale that happens. They wind up catching Omni-Man at the end of the issue, and we wind up seeing Mark talk to Cecil for the first time since he passed away, and giving him clues on what can happen in the future and whatnot, and Cecil doesn't know how to send Mark back. So the thing that happens is anything that Mark does or interacts could have an effect in the future. If this truly affects the future, or if this is just a dream, we don't truly know yet. So this is a really good issue. However, it will take you like 3.5 seconds to read it. It's such a quick read, but it's so good because it has to deal with his father, and you know how close he is with his father, and it's awesome. However, though, I just don't know how they're going to wrap this up in one more issue. Like, I don't get it here. So we'll see what happens. And after reading this one, I gave Invincible 4.25 out of 5 stars. Watch the whole next issue. It's going to be like all dialogue heavy, and they got to wrap up that whole story. So we'll see. All right, so here it is. Top 5. We're talking the top 5. Number 5, and this is a book that impressed me, and this stands true to the all-new, all-different Marvel. And this is Black Knight, issue number 1. It's all new. It's all different. It's a character we haven't seen. I think he was in like an Avengers world or something like that, which I didn't read. But this is all about Dan Whitman and him being Black Knight. And this is a setup issue. However, I think Marvel did a good job at getting you to know the legacy of Black Knight. And you find out that he was a villain at, long time, and he's, again, a legacy character. And we find out that he wants to, Dan Whitman wants to do good, and he wants to be like a hero or whatnot. And you get to find out that, we're part of an Avengers line. You find out that he did, battle against all these bad guys like Kane and whatnot, and you get to see the world get set up here as well, where you get to see World. That's where he does this battle. The artwork is spectacular in this issue. It fits the medieval time period, which I really enjoyed. It's dark, it's gritty. You find that like it's very Lord of the Rings like, where it comes against these gigantuan like creatures, like these rock fire-throwing trolls and stuff like that, and you get to see his supporting cast, called the Shield and the Spear. These are his 2 protectors. You get to see how strong the actual Ebony Blade is in the series as well, and I thought that was really cool. All those little aspects are beautiful, and again, you get to see Weird World and what it's like, or this portion of it. So I have a feeling like Weird World and this book is going to kind of collide with each other, or cross over with each other at times. And we find out that there's these wormholes that drop things into this world, and you find out that Dan Whitman collects these things, and you find out that there's little things from like the Fantastic Four, like Robbie the Robot, and just all other artifacts, that he's found, that he's collected over the years. We get this entity that shows up or whatnot, maybe the last possessor of the Ebony Blade, and it's telling him that maybe it could be possibly corrupting him as it has in the past, and you got to see how he's actually took over the kingdom and how he became king. And when you get to the end of this issue, we wind up finding out that the Uncanny Avengers show up. And these are these invaders that he was talking about. Now, this book was awesome because it didn't feel like a Marvel book, really. If it didn't mention or show the Avengers in the last page and in this part of the book right here, you would never think that this is a Marvel book. You would think that this is an independent book, and that's what really kind of attracted me to it. I thought that was awesome. And then that Uncanny Avengers moment kind of dropped it down a little bit. I'm like, it just got Marvel on me, you know? I was like, I could deal without the Uncanny Avengers for a little bit. I want to see him develop himself a little bit more in this weird world and maybe deal with his own enemies and his supporting cast. But obviously the Uncanny Avengers might need his help, or somehow they're involved in this and I don't know, maybe they're an enemy towards him, but nevertheless, it was a good read. I really enjoyed it. I'm definitely picking up the next issue. 4.25 out of 5 stars for me. I dropped it down a little bit from my initial review from 4.5 to 4.25 because I do adjust these ratings based off of my countdown to fit accordingly. So usually it's always off by a 1/4 star or so. All right. Next, we go on to number 4, and number 4 goes to Star Wars issue number 12. Really enjoyed this issue as you get to see Princess Leia, Chewbacca, and Han Solo go after and rescue Luke Skywalker in this issue. We wind up seeing the bounty hunter from the last issue winds up getting thrown off the ledge. He winds up exploding, which is really cool. But the neat thing is we get to see Gragas Hud is the one that winds up getting defeated in here. And the wonderful thing about this issue is it's something that you would probably never thought you would see in a Star Wars movie or Star Wars comic book. But you wind up seeing, in order to win this battle, you wind up seeing Chewbacca, Han Solo, and Princess Leia all wield lightsabers in here. And I thought that was cool to win this battle over Gragas Hut. And we find out that obviously the Game Master, reveals himself to Gragas Hut and what his intentions were in this issue. But I thought, again, this is what made it for me right here. And I thought Princess Leia, she looks completely badass in this issue with that lightsaber. She looks awesome. Chewbacca, not so much. His lightsaber kind of looks like it's bending a little bit. I don't know if that's just the way the picture is. But I thought it was still, regardless, it was still really a neat issue. This wraps up everything on how they rescue Skywalker here, and how you get to see now Darth Vader kind of go after his son, and this is what leads on to Vader Down. Artwork is spectacular. The writing is spectacular. Jason Aaron writes this, who also writes Vader Down. So really great book overall. I love this series. I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. All right, now we go on to the top 3. Number 3. And number 3 this week, guys, goes to Extraordinary X-Men issue number 2. I thought this book was really well done. And, I really enjoy Humberto Ramos's art more and more. Even more now on this series than I did on Amazing Spider-Man. Reason being is you can actually see him really draw all the characters. Like, you get to see him draw more types of characters. Not like in Spider-Man, where he just drew Spider-Man and he just drew maybe a random villain here and there. Here you get to see him draw this whole cast of characters from the X-Men, and we get to see a little bit of what Logan did in his, I guess, what happened in the issue, what he did, and on killing all the X-Men. From where he came from, obviously Old Man Logan. And the way Humberto Ramos drew that was absolutely gorgeous. I thought that was outstanding here. And the another great thing that happened in this issue as well was Logan's personality. It's just classic Logan in this issue, and he kind of turns his back, and we get this cool little panel in here that pokes fun at the X-Men always doing time traveling, which I thought was really well done. We also get to see a whole scene in here with Jean trying to date other people, which doesn't work out because she comes across what she thinks is a mutant but becomes an inhuman, winds up escaping, and this boyfriend just doesn't want anything to deal with her. So you get to see the extent of her powers, and this is cool, one page here, pin-up page of her just using her powers. And you find out that Nightcrawler gets taken by none other than Mr. Sinister in this issue, and you get to see what he looks like in here, and I'm like, whoa, man, that's awesome. I'm like, Mr. Sinister? I don't know why my camera's so blurry today, too, so I apologize about that. It's not, I don't guess it's working right or whatever. It's not focusing right, so I apologize about that. Now it's worse than it was before. So, all right, there we go. So anyway, though, you get to see him do this battle against Magic, and we find out that the actual X-Haven is being protected in Limbo, and now when she lets down her guard, now you see all the demons from Limbo trying to attack X-Haven. So it's just the X-Men are just in the world of shit right now. And again, you have Logan just dealing with his own demons on how he destroyed all the X-Men from where he came from. So, and he meets up with Jean Grey at the end of this issue. So, really good book. There's a lot of plot lines, a lot of plot things going on in this series right off the bat, and I'm intrigued with every single one of them. I want to see what happens to Nightcrawler. I want to see what's going on with Mr. Sinister. I want to see what's going on with Logan's situation. We got the X-Men dealing with the whole Mpox thing, and so there's just a lot of drama going on with the team, and I can't wait to see what happens going forward. So after reading this one, I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. All right, so now we go on to number 2, and this is the book that kicked out Invincible from its top 5, and that goes on to Tokyo Ghost, issue number 3. I'm loving this series more and more. I think this has been in my top 5 every single week that it's come out, and I really enjoy the character development here on Debbie and Terry, which is also known as Lead Dent. And in this series here, we find out that our heroes, or constables, if you want to call them, have made it to their way to Tokyo. And their job is to defeat the crime lord. And once they do that, they'll be free to go of their duties of being constables, and they can live on their own. But when Debbie finds out how beautiful this place is, her and Teddy wind up getting sucked into how perfect this place is. There's just no technology. They're not connected whatsoever. We wind up finding out that Teddy is still dealing with his situation about being addicted to all the social media and movies and always being connected and things like that. And we find out that the female, I think her name was Zeruka or something like that, winds up having this healing ability that she can heal. So what happens is she winds up healing Teddy in the issue. And we find out that he's this new man, and that he actually comes out, infatuated by his girlfriend, Debbie, and he sees her for the first time in like 10 years in the way that he should. And Debbie is all happy about this because she's held out for him for all these years, because she feels that it's true love and that he truly loves her. And you get to see them try to adapt in this new world that they found, this new area, and they're not dealing with the situation on hand because they feel like there's no crime lord here. They haven't found any problems, so they've adapted for months in the issue and living and breathing in this world and developing a relationship, and how actually Teddy should protect Debbie, and how he's dealing with ways of being not so strong, but not addicted to the whole social media thing. And it's just a beautiful story, but between two people that really love each other, but they're not dealing with the possible threat that's on hand, because that possible threat could be lurking in the shadows here. And the artwork by, oh my God, it's just by Sean Murphy is absolutely beautiful. I mean, look at the backgrounds in there and just the landscaping and just everything. It's just a beautiful world that he's provided the readers to look at. And the story here is just absolutely gorgeous by Rick Remender, by these two people loving each other, how much love there is. And I really love that, and I love where they came from. So the past two issues, they really spent developing these characters and who they were, and now who they've become in just two issues is amazing. And I really love it. And again, the book is doing a good job to get you feel for these characters, because I don't know what's going to happen to them, but it's an enjoyable book. I'm happy I've stuck with this, and I'm giving this one a 4.75 out of 5 stars. Love it a lot. Great stuff here. All right, so the number one book of the week goes to, probably no surprise here for you guys that watched my review, Vader Down, issue number 1. I'm a Star Wars fan, Darth Vader fan. If it wasn't for Star Wars, if it wasn't for Darth Vader, who knows if I would like comic books today, because that was the first thing I have ever watched that was science fiction wise, and what propelled me to other avenues of science fiction and things like that. So Vader Down issue number 1 for me was the perfect issue. If you were a Star Wars fan and you were waiting for that perfect Darth Vader book, this is it. And this is about Vader crashing down onto Vargos Vaz, and that's where Luke Skywalker is as well, because their ships wind up colliding to each other, and Vader is down, and you get the whole Rebel fleet actually searching for Vader to try to take him out. But before you lead into that book, you just wind up seeing how awesome Darth Vader is, on why everyone fears him so much, on how strong he is with the Force. And it was just beautiful. The book starts off just like this, with an awesome 2-page spread of Vader's TIE fighter interacting with a rogue squadron that is just getting refuel and doing a training exercise. But then it just leads into that title page, and from there on out, man, all shit hits the fan, where the rogue squadron goes against Vader and they just get their butts beat. I mean, these are many ships going against many ships here, and they just get destroyed by Vader. It was 2 squadrons worth of X-Wings going after him, and he just destroys them like it's nothing. Skywalker joins the battle. Again, he feels that the only thing to do is just to run into his dad's ship, and he feels the presence. He obviously knows that that's who that is, and they crash down into that planet. And again, artwork is gorgeous. You get a feel of all the destruction that has happened in space, with all the X-Wing pilots floating around with their droids, just helpless in space, just awesome. You wind up seeing that at the end when Vader crashes and you get the rebels going after Vader here. They don't send in a few troops, not against Vader. They send in the cavalry, man, and you get to see him standing there getting ready to do battle against the fleet, against the rebels, and it was badass. I mean, it was perfect. I love this issue. This was hands down worth the $5. I loved it so much. This, when I read it, I was right away sitting there going, there's no way anything can defeat this book. Tokyo Ghost's character development wise was very close, but this really fleshes out who Darth Vader really is and how feared he is in the galaxy. And again, this was the Darth Vader book that I think a lot of us have been waiting for the first time in a long time. Even though the Darth Vader series is good and led up into this point, this was that key issue. And that's why it got 5 stars. Perfect read for me this week. So guys, in the comments below, you tell me what your favorite book was of the week, what your least favorite book of the week was, and all that other crap in between. And guys, This has been the Countdown, episode number 123. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And fans, as always, thank you for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0. Until the next comic book review, this is Mike Spider Slayer signing off. Take care, guys. See you soon. Bye.